this is the plan going forward. I think it's very exciting. And so I'm eager to share it with you guys. I think you're going to find it exciting. And we're going to start off with a video that basically characterizes what we're doing. And I know you guys get this, but it bears repeating because it is awesome to see people like yourselves find out about this innovation and then want to do something to help make it go forward. And this video clip, thank you, TC, for pulling together these clips. It's amazing to have these clips available like this. But this video clip characterizes in like 3 minutes the inspiration that we're collaborating on creating for other people, not just for us. So take a listen to this.
We can't hear the audio, Perry.
You can't hear the audio? Jarek?
No, we can't.
Oh, that's so frustrating. That is too bad. Well, we're going to have to skip that slide then. I'm going to put this in the comment section of the recording so you guys can look at this, because this is a really inspiring segment of this interview that Jarek and I had with these two guys, and they perfectly characterize what it is we're doing and the impact it can have on the planet. So I'm bummed that you can't hear that, but I'll put it in the comment section of the live video. And same with you guys in the social group. If you could not hear that, we will have it there in a little bit.
We could try it you could play it on your phone while you're playing it on the slide if you want to. You just have to time it so we can hear.
Oh yeah, through my microphone on my headphones.
Yes.
No, that's okay. Let's just go forward.
Okay.
You can look at it later. I'll also put it in the chat window in Messenger so you guys can listen to it after the fact. It's just super inspiring and sets this presentation up like wonderfully. All right, let's move on. So the agenda, like I said, overall roadmap vision. I'm going to talk about specific initiatives that we're going to be including in 2021, and they will probably spill over to 2022 is my thinking. Then we're going to talk about, I'm going to share some specific project roadmap overviews. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details because of course we can't prescribe what the details are going to be because things are so fluid in what we're doing. And then I'm going to share what I see as the organizational structure of Copiosis as we roll out the innovation and prosecute our transition plan. So of course, everything in the world starts with a vision. I believe we have a killer vision, and that vision is having the world catch fire about Copiosis. And the reason why the vision is somewhat vague like that and focused on the idea of catching fire is because when people, my experience is when people catch fire, when they get excited about Copiosis, they want the thing to happen. And for whatever reason, it's almost, Simone and I were talking about this yesterday. It's almost like Copiosis is an intelligence that is driving through individual human inspiration its own emergence into the world. And so rather than trying to figure out the how and the when of transitioning to a Copiosis reality, I believe our job as the implementers is just to stay excited about it and be inspired through that excitement to do what we're excited and inspired to do. And if each of us does that going forward, including the people like those guys in the interview who you could not hear, we will naturally evolve into a place where Copiosis is the dominant economic system. And so the more people we can get to catch fire about Copiosis, I think the more opportunities Copiosis as this entity can, for lack of a better word, use those people who are on fire about Copiosis to do things to make Copiosis more and more real in the world. We're already seeing this happen, you guys. So this is kind of the high level vision of what I see we're wanting to see: more people catching fire about copiosis. So in the spirit of that, in order to support people getting inspired about copiosis and wanting to do something to help, I believe we have to create an organization that's matched to the outcomes that we're all wanting to see. And although we all have different ideas of what those outcomes are, especially outside of the core team, I think we can produce those outcomes anyway, so long as we inspire inspired people. In 2021, we're going to be focused, members of the core team are going to be focused on securing the funding necessary to set up a foundation upon which we're going to build the organization and the innovation. It's so funny. Simone and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like we're currently, I don't know if you guys have looked at a skyscraper being built. When a skyscraper is being built, the first thing they have to do is build down into the ground. They build a gigantic hole, and it's in that hole that they build the foundation that's going to support this huge skyscraper. And that part of the build takes, I think, many weeks, if not months. Carrie, you're probably familiar with this as a person from construction. But then once that foundation's built, everything else just kind of flies up. And so what we have been doing over these last 7 years is digging that hole. And so now we're ready to build on the foundation. And the foundation is going to support our building, which is going to be what I'm calling more. And more simply means an inspired team. The more inspired we are, and the people who join the social group and the other groups on Facebook to participate with us, the more they're inspired, we've already shown this, the more inspired people get about Copiosis, the more results get produced. It's so funny because I believe the innovation that is Copiosis, the economic system that is Copiosis, is predicated on this idea that when people are inspired, they do the right things. And when they do the right things, the right results show up. Results consistent with taking humanity to the next level. So you guys have seen this graph, this image. It's interesting because as we move forward through the next 5 years or so, there is going to, I originally thought these phases were discrete phases and we would move through them linearly. But what it's turning out to be is that each of these phases are operating simultaneously and they're informing one another as we move forward. So with regard to our vision, if we are able to inspire people to come forward and do what the innovation wants us to do, then we will be working in all of these phases, and eventually the other four phases simultaneously. So it's very exciting to see what we're doing, what we've done, and what we're going to be doing going forward. So let's look at the road. So like I said, our first step is to get this institutional funding to support our foundational needs. Jennifer and I had a conversation last week where we talked about going after the first set of grants. Jennifer's in the process of pulling together a priority list of grants that she believes we can secure. And these grants are going to provide us with the necessary foundational needs to get the foundation in place so that we can start building. And from my perspective, you guys, these are the foundational needs. So we need, up in the upper left-hand corner, we need the 501c3. This is going to be a relatively long process, predominantly on my shoulders, to pull together handcrafted bylaws and a charter that supports what we're trying to do. We can't use like a LegalZoom to create a nonprofit entity because that boilerplate documentation that they create is not specific enough to what we're doing. So we have to handcraft these things. We're going to need administrative support. Right now, there is so much happening in Copiosis. The people who are talented and are excited about doing our things that are moving the innovation forward are also being bogged down, just like me, by the administrative needs. In addition to that, when money starts coming in, we're going to need accounting support because funding organizations, most of them will not give you grant money if you don't have an accountant a funding administrator separate from the organization who's handling the finances. So I'm looking at the first two expenditures being getting the accounting team, pulling that together, and then getting some sort of administrative assistance support so that the people who are eager and excited about doing the actual work of Copiosis aren't busy trying to organize meetings and organize calendars and figuring out who's where and what's going on and answering questions and things like that. And then the big part of the foundation of this entire thing, as you'll see when we get to the organizational chart, is the application. We've got to fund that application because everything, the app, everything flows from that app and the software. So the next thing we need to do, or that we want to do, or that I'm excited to have done, is get this board game developed and ready to go. Carrie is a godsend, having come to us in the timing that he came with what he already had developed. Jarek, myself, and Carrie are working on adopting what he already has to what we're doing so that we can run alongside what he's doing with regard to Weopoly. We are very excited to see the synergies where we can work together to create a Copiosis version of his board game. And so we're going to be rolling out with that in parallel with the previous slide, where we're getting funding to support our foundation and getting funding to develop the app. Those initiatives will run alongside this one. So Jennifer had suggested to me that a big PR push we needed to go after is to get us on the TED stage. And so Christopher Lankinen, you guys may not have heard that name, he has been a supporter since the early days of Copiosis and has been funding a significant part of the work. He is working with me to develop a TED Talk, and he's also putting together our application because I believe it's more effective to have someone who's not officially part of the organization to recommend the organization speak on TED. So he and I are in the process of filling out the application Jennifer sent us, and should we get selected, he and I will work together to pull together a TED Talk for the TED stage. Should we get on TED, then it's going to trigger some public relation results that I think are going to drive further participation. So it potentially starts with TED, but it doesn't necessarily have to start with TED. Jennifer wants to get us on high-level podcasts. And Christopher, hopefully Ben Shapiro and the Conservative Review reflect that we're not just driving for the left. We also want to get on right-oriented podcasts. Also, we believe the Scholastic Essay Contest that Jennifer had talked about addresses what Karen Wilkes was talking about relative to reaching out to education. I think one other person was interested in doing some sort of an education initiative with Copiosis. So those two can work together to spread awareness. And then as we get more and more on higher level podcasts, we should begin getting higher level news stories and other media about Copiosis. And when that happens, all of that drives more social media outreach. Of course, we're already, to be honest, a little bit overtaxed on the social media outreach demand that we've generated. And so as that happens, we're going to need to scale the organization even more to handle the onslaught of questions that come in through the contact page. I mean, right now, the questions coming through the contact page aren't overwhelming, but that's because most people are asking the questions on Twitter, and we can't keep up with the number of people that are asking those questions. So it's our success is pushing the need for a more robust organizational framework. In the next mile, this is crucial, is creating this in real life demonstration project. And again, this goes back to what Kerry has brought with both his game and the, I can't remember what he calls it. It's the middle part of his idea. I want to call it a summit, but it's not really that. Maybe it's under the tent type experience. And then the actual on the ground demonstration project that just opens the door to an enormous amount of potential to demonstrate to the general public how Copiosis works. So getting that demonstration project up and running is a big deal for next year. And then, of course, as Jennifer had suggested in a couple of meetings ago, getting some sort of high-level program on streaming media. This has always been a part of the phase 2 implementation plan, and it's so interesting that this year we have someone now on the team who has the connections and even made the suggestion herself, I'm talking about Jennifer, that can make this a reality. So it's really cool to see how, with ease and flow, our implementation plan is coming together, and as it comes together, we're getting the people that we need to help make this happen. So the docuseries and the reality program is really important because it really takes us to the next level. It allows us to draw probably to us a celebrity spokesperson. It opens the possibility for other fellow travelers that will come on board. We've already seen this happen before. They just haven't been the right fellow travelers so far. But Liquid Intelligence for sure is one of those. And then the results, these next level results, are going to generate awareness and interest of the luminaries that will naturally come to us also. And of course, Carrie has mentioned having contacts with these people also. And then when we get this reality program up and running, of course, we're going to get even more interest from bigger news outlets and other media. So that's our next level result indicators, is to have that docu-series or reality show on streaming media. We're getting farther out on that path, this roadmap. So the ability to tell specifically what we're doing is getting hazier as we look 15 miles forward. So at this point, we're looking, as we look at the 15-mile mark, we're seeing some sort of municipal volunteer program. It's essentially the municipal engagement project that has already started kicking off with Christopher responding to Jill's question on how to approach a municipal entity to potentially launch a municipal-wide demonstration project. Jarek and I and Christopher had talked about this earlier this year, but with a strategy being pulled together now between Christopher and Jill chomping at the bit to reach out to Oregon City, and us talking about the demonstration project and how that could potentially support some sort of a volunteer project, we are looking at funding to support that potential test. And right now, in fact, the last time Jill and I talked, we were talking about perhaps volunteerism, a funding program that supports volunteerism or mental health or community health or employment training that could be measured by the application, where we're generating this net benefit value indicator that could be the kind of like the metric that supports the definition of what success is, which then can be used to secure more grants. And then, of course, should we be successful in creating such a demonstration project, then we have two projects underway, one a municipal level one, and then of course the on-the-ground reality in real life demonstration project of Copiosis. And those two create a synergy that makes it quite, I believe, natural to transition into an industry where we bring what we've refined through these two demonstration projects, a more professional version that we can approach industry with. So the horizon is getting hazier. As you, I don't know if you guys have ever been on the ocean, but when you're on the ocean, you can see about 20 miles, but beyond that, it starts getting hazy. It's hard to see what's out there. So at the 20-mile mark of this roadmap, I see the opportunity to scale, network, duplicate, and expand what we're doing. And to be honest, I'm not really clear what that looks like, but I think it's going to be something like this. So developing a demonstration project network where we have 3 different versions of projects. One is the network of on-the-ground demonstration projects, a la what we're doing with Carrie. The other are these municipal projects. And then the third one are these industrial projects. And so I'm expecting this network, the three that I just mentioned, to generate another potentially larger media program deal, something like a series, a mainstream media series that couches a drama in the context of a copiosis reality. I think that would be really cool to see. And then having momentum on our three, let's call them demonstration project verticals, and being able to expand those to other projects, which could, I believe, spur international opportunities. Now, some of you may remember, but that I've talked about this, and those of you who've been with me long enough know that in 2016, when I came back from Greece after giving that speech at Z-Day, we had 20-something locations around the world that wanted our early stage demonstration projects. So I expect that when we reach this stage and we have at least the first two demonstration verticals in place, we're going to get people from around the world who are wanting to replicate what we're doing. And so again, we're going to need an organization that can kind of, this isn't the right language, but it's the language that's coming to mind right now, productize our demonstration projects so that they can be replicated in other locations around the world without us necessarily having to be there. And then I think we're going to have to move to Geneva. Now, I'm not saying that you all are going to have to move to Geneva, but the organization's formal location, I think, needs to be in this location because a lot of the funding that is distributed on a global scale is based there. This is direction that was given to us from Prasad Souza earlier in this year. And so connecting Copiosis with that Geneva ecosystem will allow us greater access to even more funding and organizations that can really amplify what we're doing, the real strategic partners that we're looking for. And I know that some people in the RBE ecosystem really don't like this part of our initiative, but I really believe it is the way to go when we're ready to have a real global impact. And of course, like Jarek had said, this still can be coupled with an on-the-ground grassroots movement, moving from the ground up. But being able to connect with these higher level strategic organizations and moving downward can have a huge impact on our ability to scale globally our main verticals. So very, very excited about that potential. Moving our headquarters to Geneva would be awesome. Okay, I'm all excited. Beyond that, I really can't say what the vision looks like because we're now beyond the 20-mile horizon and it gets really blurry. As you've seen, Stijmergy has really served us, and I believe through working with Stijmergy on this outline of what the strategic roadmap could look like, we've got something really exciting for people. So let's take a look at, we're almost done here, let's take a look at the beyond 20-mile horizon, what the organization could potentially look like. So here we are. So at the bottom of this tree is the foundation where we have you guys with me in the core group working alongside a board of directors managing a 501c3 with its admin support, driving with the help of funding, political and communications initiatives. The political initiative being run through a 501c4, which is a nonprofit political organization. This foundation drives both our communication through the copiosis.com and our other strategies, connecting to the central jewel of everything we're doing, which is the Copiosis app. The Copiosis app feeds the three verticals. The three verticals replicate themselves, as you see at the top of the chart. And then over there on the right, the communications and the political organization work together to drive our outreach across public relations, the academic world, our edutainment, which includes the streaming media service products and the streaming media episodes or shows, and then other media, such as news coverage and things like that, and other speeches that we might give. And then off in the upper right-hand corner shows some of the specific things that Jennifer will primarily be driving. And I'm hoping that Simone will find comfort in working in that area also. As far as the people who I think are leading these foundational initiatives, I think it seems pretty natural to me that Chris would lead the political side. Jennifer would support me. Actually, Jennifer would lead and I would support her on continuing to get funding. The admin, we'd have someone else helping us with the admin support. And then we'd all be dipping in and out of the verticals with a project lead primarily running each of those verticals. So a project lead in the demonstration projects management, a project lead in the industry, and then a project lead on the municipal side. So that leaves the core team free to kind of flitter about at the overarching side, driving the strategy from a Stijmergic perspective. So that's what I'm seeing going forward, you guys. I'm excited about what we've got going. So let's see if you guys have any questions or discussion, and then we will open the floor to whoever is watching via the live stream on the social group.